Good afternoon and welcome to YouTube headquarters in San Bruno, California, if you're joining us from somewhere on the internet. Our guest today at YouTube is an actor who has appeared in some of the comedies that defined the last decade. I'm talking about movies like 40-Year-Old Virgin and Superbad, Forgetting Sarah Marshall, Get 'Em to the Greek, Funny People, and more. But he's here today to share with us some of his experiences working in a dramatic role on a movie that opens this weekend. The movie is Moneyball. Please join me in welcoming to YouTube Jonah Hill.
Hello.
Hey Jonah, how you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
Good.
Thanks for joining, Internet, if you're watching this. Haven't seen you in a while. I hope your hair still looks as good as last time I saw it, Internet. And why'd you break up with me? That wasn't nice. Okay. How are you guys doing?
Excellent. So Jonah, I could explain what Moneyball is as a movie, but I'm sure people would rather hear you tell them about it.
Moneyball is a drama about baseball, but it's about the 2002 Oakland A's and Billy Beane and my character Peter Brand using this technique called sabermetrics, or Moneyball as they call it, and they use this technique of a different way of finding value in players to build a team with very little money that ends up winning 20 straight games in a row, which breaks a lot of records. Now, on paper, this sounds like the most boring movie ever made, about a movie about baseball statistics. But Aaron Sorkin, who wrote The Social Network, and Steve Zalian, who wrote Schindler's List, wrote this movie. And Aaron Sorkin, and I'm paraphrasing here, said about it just as how The Social Network on paper sounds very boring. You know, a movie about someone inventing a website. Maybe not to the people in this room. But to me, that sounded very boring. And you watch that film and it's riveting and really groundbreaking and cool and a great drama. And it's the same thing about Moneyball, because the filmmakers really used baseball as a really beautiful aesthetic backdrop to tell a really moving story about underdogs and being undervalued. And that's the story I connected to. And also it stars Brad Pitt and myself and Seymour Hoffman. So the three most handsome guys in the world, obviously. They found us all, paired us together finally. And yeah. And for me, it's exciting because it's, you're used to seeing me in comedies. And this is, I love comedy movies and dramatic movies. And for me, it's a really big opportunity to show you guys what I could do in a dramatic role. And I hope you like it. That'd be nice. Yeah.
Sure. Now, it's not as if you've only done kind of one particular style of comedy over the years. I mean, the invention of lying had a very kind of specific tone to it. And then even Funny People was a very kind of naturalistic movie. But still, this is a big step up for you, kind of being head-to-head with Brad Pitt.
Yeah, well, I made a movie last year called Cyrus, which was a smaller movie that not a lot of people saw. And it was myself and John C. Reilly and Marissa Tomei. And that was kind of good, like it was a good bridgeway in between some of the comedies I made and dramatic work, because it was funny and it was a drama. It had both things in it. And yeah, I mean, the thing about the comedies I've done is, to me, at the time when I met Judd Apatow and all these guys, like when we all started working together, it did feel very punk rock and different than what was going on in comedy. It felt like a different thing that was happening, and we all kind of had the same energy and take on what we wanted to do, led by Judd, obviously. And, but now it's years later, and those movies have been copied now to death. And, in my mind, I'm always like, well, what's next? How do I evolve? And how do you evolve? And then you watch the way that Judd is evolving as a filmmaker, and Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg are evolving as filmmakers. And now my evolution involves doing movies like Cyrus and Moneyball, and that's stuff I'm really psyched about, So hopefully I could get to do both of those things, the comedy and drama.
Now, I've heard some actors say that it's very intimidating to work opposite someone like Robert De Niro because it's Robert De Niro. And obviously Brad Pitt is just so damn handsome. Do you have to just like stare at him for 20 minutes to see if it goes away? Or how does that work?
You know, honestly, like, to what?
Just, get past the initial shock.
This guy.
I have
Calm
more
down.
questions like this.
Yes,
so.
yeah. It's the accent mixed with the tattoos, mixed with the stare, mixed with the smile.
We'll be fine.
All right. If anything happens to me, I'm in Northern California, in a really weird professor auditorium. I don't know where I am. No, I mean, obviously I was intimidated when I got this part because it was myself. I'm the second lead in this movie with Brad Pitt, and Philip Seymour Hoffman's in the movie, and, Bennett Miller's directing it, who directed Capote, and Aaron Sorkin wrote Social Network, and Steve Zalian, who wrote Schindler's List. And it just is this really surreal, dreamlike experience from day one. And so, the first day of rehearsals, I was really nervous. But I was like, I can either be really freaked out or I can kick my nerves to the curb for a second and try and deliver for these people who took a chance on giving me an opportunity to do something truly different. So I just wanted to come through for them. And if I was sitting around being nervous about how talented everyone was, I probably would have just thought about that as opposed to doing a good job.
Sure. Now, obviously, Moneyball really is. It's a number of things. It's a human interest story. It's the story of Billy Bean. But I don't want to underplay the role of statistics. Obviously, we probably have some, programmers.
Well, you guys are nerds, so it's
yes,
really
exactly.
exciting for you.
There are some people here, I'm sure.
Wrong crowd, wrong room. The internet liked that more than this room.
You don't like being called nerds.
I'm leaving.
But how did you deal with, did you method act your way through the statistical stuff?
No, well, honestly, I realized I had never played a character with a skill before of any kind. And now the character I was playing had to be a brilliant statistician and mathematician. So I had a statistics tutor and a mathematics tutor. And I think that was probably the hardest job on Moneyball, was teaching me how to count past 10, probably, because I'm very poor at math and science. I was always really good at history and English and acting and stuff like that in school.
Now, I did read somewhere that apparently you were kind of it was suggested that you should deal with statistics the same way that you kind of talk about other actors in Hollywood and their strengths and weaknesses. So,
or filmmakers,
sure.
Movies themselves.
So I was kind of wondering, could you maybe give us an example and maybe give us like 2 of Seth Rogen's strengths and 1 weakness?
I'm not going to do that.
He'll never know.
Would I want to? Next question.
Well, what's his strength? What is a strength that you gained from
Ask
working with
him. I don't know. What the hell?
All right. I'll ask him.
I flew down to Northern California. He didn't ask me about Seth. He's
right.
great. He's getting married in a couple of weeks. I'm going to go to his wedding.
Excellent. Okay, now, Brad is obviously playing very much the character of Billy Bean. I mean, there's a lot of Billy in the book. It's a really interesting read. You're playing maybe more of a composite character and maybe a bigger character than...
Do you work for YouTube?
Yeah.
I thought this was for people who were on YouTube to ask questions.
Well, we're going to get to that.
I want to hear your guys' questions, right? We should hear the people's questions.
All right. I thought we were going to do some Moneyball questions.
Yeah, we could do it. Keep going. But I want to hear the kids that are on the computer. That's exciting to me, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, cool.
Shall we skip to the questions that we got from the internet?
No, let's keep going.
Well, I was just kind of interested in, obviously, Billy. As I say, Billy is a real character. You're playing more of a composite character, maybe, and it's a bigger part, perhaps, than it is in the book, because in the book, the character of the statistician isn't drawn out as much. And I thought that would have been an interesting opportunity to have that a little bit grounded in reality, but then you've got Aaron Sorkin writing out the role.
Well, I think, my character in this movie is a guy who would blend into a wall, right? So he's never had a light shined on him before. He's never had someone empower him in any way. He's someone who is doing the busy work on a computer. No offense. And you don't usually see that person's story, is what I'm saying. So for me, I found it really unique to get to play a character where you're getting to play someone who you're hearing their story who you don't usually get to see. And a guy like Billy, like Brad Pitt's character, is the guy's character who you always see in a movie. The main protagonist always. But the cool thing is Brad's character was overvalued. He was told he was going to be this big sports star because he was handsome and he was good at baseball, and he turned down going to Stanford and he turned down getting an education, and he fizzled out and he didn't become this big sports star. And my character is undervalued. He's taken at face value, taken as a guy who just can do busy work on a computer, but he has these really brilliant, radical ideas. And Billy's the first person, Brad's character, Billy's the first person who sees him and goes, you're something special. You have something special to offer. And it's really cool to see that guy's story. So that's what I found really interesting. And it's kind of like seeing a baby use his legs for the first time, because he's never been empowered before. So he's metaphorically wobbling around, trying to learn how to walk or trying to learn how to deal with some sort of power. Yeah. And that's exciting,
And obviously, a lot of this was filmed at the Coliseum in Oakland.
Yeah.
And again, that's a little bit of a character in the book. You read about the video room and just the atmosphere. It's certainly not the most palatial stadium in sports. Did that help to kind of soak up that atmosphere?
Yeah, honestly, when we shot there, there's no more real place you could actually go than where you're shooting, where it took place. And then when you walk out on the field, it's just the coolest thing ever because it's empty. And then, you can run around the bases and throw the ball around and stuff. And then when we shot a lot of the games that are really factual about what actually took place, there were real A's fans in the stadium, some of whom were at those actual games. And that was really cool. That was really exciting.
So if you were to kind of apply the theories of Moneyball to the kind of movie roles that you take, and Moneyball being kind of looking for things that are maybe undervalued or people don't put enough emphasis on and really kind of leveraging them, is that something that you look for in roles, or you like name big on the poster and a lot of lines?
I just look for name biggest on the poster, most amount of free stuff I can. No, that's silly. The only thing I care about. The only thing I care about is when I'm older and I have grandkids and I've spent my life doing this, if I'm lucky to keep getting to spend my life doing this, that I'll have a few DVDs or whatever that will be then. It'll be like watched on your palm or something. I have a few movie cartridges I can implant into my grandchildren's brain space and say, this is what I spent my life doing, and I'm really proud of these few things. And that's all how I look at it, because if you're going to go away for a few months and you're going to go dedicate your life to something, you guys know, everyone in this room is someone clearly really special and smart, or you wouldn't be working here. And you could be doing anything with that intelligence, but it has to be something you're incredibly passionate about if you're going to dedicate not sleeping and working really hard at it. And we're all lucky enough to get to work on stuff we really care about if we're lucky, but the only thing that could be the impetus of that is thinking it could become something really special.
Sure. So obviously, comedy, some of the films you've been on could be described as a bit ensemble casts, a bit of a team sport kind of thing. How different is working with Judd to the kind of the Billy Bean character? I presume Judd's not throwing chairs around to get you to work.
No, Judd has been, there have been 4 really major Billy Bean figures in my life, people that shined a light on me and gave me the opportunity to get where I'm at now, which is YouTube. I feel like I've worked my way backwards from movies to YouTube. Aren't you supposed to start at YouTube and then get a movie deal or something when you make a video of yourself like getting hit in the nuts with a Frisbee or something, right? But no, Dustin Hoffman was the first person who encouraged me to become an actor and got me my first audition in what ended up being my first movie, which is I Heart Huckabees. And then after that, I met Judd, who gave me countless opportunities and things, to show what I had to offer. And the next person would be the Duplass brothers, who gave me Cyrus, which is a movie that was able to show a little bit more of a different side. And then finally Brad Pitt and Bennett Miller, who made Moneyball, to give me this big opportunity. And then fifth would be YouTube. who gave me the opportunity to be here, which is really cool. Yeah. I'm here. I'm at YouTube. I'm in, like, you guys are watching YouTube. I'm in YouTube. And it's just like a giant tube filled with, like, kids after the dentist that, like, have had too much Vicodin or whatever. And, like, you know, women stomping on grapes and falling down and screaming.
So
It's a weird place. It's just this giant tube with weird internet characters.
excellent. So
Excellent.
excellent. So again, to kind of beat this baseball metaphor to death, as I plan to, I mean, one of the things about Moneyball is it's inherently a kind of conservative strategy of playing baseball. It's, you know, take the walk, don't try and steal the base, get on base. It's the opposite of kind of improvisation, and obviously anybody who's seen the DVD extras in a lot of the Judd's movies will know that, you know, you've worked in a lot of films where there's a lot of improvisation. Is that something that you kind of now look for as an actor, or?
No, I just, like I said, you know, I want to make good movies, whether they're dramas or comedies, whether they're improvised or scripted. The process is not what you're looking for. What will be the finished result being something that you care about. I don't want to tread over the same answer again, which I feel like that kind of is, but you just got to be really proud of what you're working on, or there's no point in doing it. So you can't say, like, oh, I'm going to do this movie because I think it's going to make a lot of money, or I'm going to do this movie because it'll get me this, or I'm going to do this because I'm going to improvise a lot. Like, that's all, you know, no matter how joyous the spirit of what you're doing is, or how annoying it was to make it, or how hard it was to make it, or how fun it was to make it, those will always shift. But if your goal has to be the product being good,
Sure.
you know, if you start doing movies for reasons like, oh, they're going to be a lot of fun, the work might suffer and the product might suffer.
So Philip Seymour Hoffman, a lot of people say an actor's actor. What did you kind of experience specifically with him?
I think, I was most intimidated to work with him out of everyone involved in the movie, because he, you know, I don't know, because he does come off as this really intense dude from his movies, and he's such a gifted actor, and I didn't know what his process would be like at all. And he was fantastic. I mean, super fun and funny, but when he's working, he's very, very, involved in what he's doing. It's not like joke around with him before you do a dramatic scene or something like that. It's pretty intense. And the interesting thing is his character doesn't like my character in the movie, and he doesn't like Brad Pitt's character in the movie. So we would do these scenes, and I would look at the call sheet and see that Phil was there that day, and I'd go, God, this sucks, because you knew you were going to get yelled at all day, and he's such a good actor that it feels like he's really mad at you all the time. So I'd have to be like, you're not mad at me or anything, right? And he's like, no, I'm just acting, you know? So sometimes you felt as if he was really upset with you, because he's such a good actor.
Excellent. So just to go back a little bit to Superbad, which obviously had a lot of people kind of really, you broke through with that. When you were working on it, was it obvious at the time that this was, something special?
I think that it was the most fun movie I've ever made, I'd say. That and Forgetting Sarah Marshall, because I worked like 2 days and I was in Hawaii for like a month. But Superbad was the most, it was like my college experience, because I dropped out of school. Michael Cera was doing that instead of going to college, and Seth and Evan didn't go, or Evan went to a little college, but they were just, from the crew to the cast, everyone, it was all people we hung out with in real life. It was the youngest energy I've ever felt on a set, because everyone was, like 18 to 25 years old, including the crew and everyone, except for Judd and Greg Mottola, Greg the director, and Judd the producer. And we would, have big parties after work or on the weekends, and we really all loved each other. So it was an incredibly, as fun as the movie looks to make, it actually, sometimes they look really fun to make and they're not as fun as that to make. That one looked really fun to make and was insanely fun to make.
And you were kind of playing a character that Seth Rogen wrote more or less himself as a younger person? Could you?
I think you want to date Seth Rogen. I'm
I-
pretty
he's
sure
a-
I
he's a-
can.
he's a
He's getting
handsome
married,
man.
but I think I can. You seem to be very fascinated by him.
I only have 4 more Seth questions. I'll get through them quickly.
I think you should interview him, man.
If he's watching, Seth, if you're out there,
Yeah.
I'm married, but
Yeah.
I'll see what I can do. I was just really going to ask, I mean, could you see a point where you were kind of writing a script based around your own earlier life? You know, would that be an interesting thing to do?
I don't know. I don't know if I ever would. I've written one script that's autobiographical that has not been produced into a film. And to me, you know, Superbad was Seth and Evan's high school experiences. And then when Michael and I came on, and then obviously Judd, who worked on it, and everyone who worked on it contributed their experiences and what they felt, you know? And for me, that, you know, 21 Jump Street is a movie that I was one of the writers on. And that, to me, is riffing on making Superbad, that whole movie to me, because I'm playing a 25-year-old who goes back to high school in 21 Jump Street and as a cop. But when I was making Superbad, I was a 20-something-year-old pretending going back to high school again. So I got to use a lot of the experiences that I did to pretend to be a high school student while making Superbad in 21 Jump Street as a 25-year-old pretending to be a high school student again. Like, for example, in Superbad, I moved back in with my parents into my childhood room while we made the movie because I wanted to feel like I felt like I was in high school. And when in 21 Jump Street, when our characters go back to high school, we move in with my parents again. And so all the funny things, like you're being in your 20s and having your mom go, "What are you doing tonight?" And you go, "Mom, shut up." Like, you know, like you're past that, but you have to go back to that.
Sure.
And so 21 Jump Street has a lot of stuff like that from that's riffing on when I was making Superbad.
Yeah. Now, speaking as a parent, I always say to people that you have to be very careful when you bring a kids movie into the house because you're going to end up watching it a lot.
Yeah.
And from that perspective, I kind of have to say, like, how to Train Your Dragon was, to beat the baseball metaphor to death, a home run in every respect. What was it like to be a part of something like that?
Well, thanks. I mean, I will be totally honest with you guys. I did not know if that was going to be a good movie or not. When you do those animated movies, you're in a booth, they don't show you anything really, and you're just kind of like screaming and stuff and saying stuff. And then I saw it and I was like, this is a beautiful movie. It really is a beautiful movie. And I was totally surprised. I had no idea it would be as good as it was. And those directors, they're really beautiful people and smart, articulate, and aesthetically gifted people. And when I watched that movie, I was very surprised at how good and moving it was.
Yeah. I mean, it has plot and action, and
Yeah.
it's very watchable.
And dragons are cool.
And dragons. And there's a sequel?
Yeah. Another one that I'm just rolling the dice on. I just hope it, again, I mean, it's the same guy, so I think it'll be great, you know? But yeah, I mean, you literally in a booth, there's like no one else around, and they give you some lines, and it's like, watch out for that dragon. And you're like, this could be terrible. I have no idea. I have no idea what this is going to be like, you know? And then it turned out to be something I'm really proud of, you know?
And you have been in other animation stuff. You were, I guess, in Hortensies, Here's a Who.
Yeah.
You were in Megamind, and you have your own animated series coming up on Fox.
Yeah.
World domination.
Yeah,
is the plan?
I don't know. Just YouTube domination. Do you guys have a bed here? I want to live in this tube forever with you guys.
We have some comfortable couches.
Okay, cool. You had great hummus.
Excellent.
I had some hummus. Have you guys tried the hummus here at YouTube? It's fantastic. Great hummus. Yeah, I created an animated show called Alan Gregory with my two friends, Jared Paul and Andy Mogul, and it's about the world's most pretentious 7-year-old named Alan Gregory, and he has 2 dads, and one of the dads is an heiress, and he loses the money, and so Alan Gregory has to go to public school for the first time with normal kids, and he finds this disgusting. He doesn't want to be around normal kids, and I do the voice of Alan Gregory. And let me tell you, when I was growing up, The Simpsons were my total. When my parents asked me what I wanted to do when I was young, they said, "What do you want to do when you grow up?" And I said, "I want to live in Springfield." I was like 6 or 7, and with The Simpsons. And my parents said, "Well, that's The Simpsons is a show, and they're animators who draw Homer, There are people who, there's a guy who does Homer's voice, and there are people who write what Homer says. And I was like, I want to be one of the people who writes what Homer says. So that was a bizarre dream, because most kids just answer like fireman, but I would be in school and say, I want to write for an animated primetime sitcom, and that was weird. And then years later, Superbad had come out, and I'd done some of these comedies that had been successful, and Fox had luckily asked me, they said, do you want to do the voice of an animated character on one of our new shows? And I said, well, if I'm on one of your shows, you probably wouldn't let me create my own show ever, because you already have me on your network. And they were like, yeah, probably, but you don't have a show. And I was like, okay, hold on a second. So I went, Jared, one of the co-creators, lived in my building, and I went in there with him and his partner, Andy, his writing partner, and we stayed in a room for a few weeks, and after a few weeks, we emerged with a pilot for Alan Gregory. And now, October 30th, after The Simpsons Treehouse of Horror episode, we premiere on Fox right after The Simpsons. So
awesome.
That dream has come very full circle to me, and I'm very overjoyed and overwhelmed by that.
Nice. Now,
that's cool. Yeah. Very cool. Thanks.
And you also have The Sitter coming up later this year.
Yeah, The Sitter. If you liked like Superbad and stuff like that, you're gonna like The Sitter. It's a really hardcore R-rated babysitting comedy. And you know those movies, the idea behind that is, those movies where they're like, you don't want this guy watching your kids, and it's like some really cheesy Disney movie. You really don't want this guy watching your kids. The plot of that movie revolves around me going to buy drugs for my girlfriend while babysitting these kids as a favor to my mom. And one of the kids steals drugs from Sam Rockwell and J.B. Smoove, who are drug dealers, and chase us around New York City. And it's hysterical. And David Gordon Green who directed Pineapple Express. And it's a really crazy, fun one night in New York City kind of movie with me and a bunch of kids. And that comes out December 9th. Yeah. And there's a cell phone. The poster, there's a cell phone with a phone number, like need a sitter, and there's a phone number on it. And they're like, we want you to leave a voicemail. So when people call this number, they'll hear your voice. And I go, well, who has the phone? And they're like, it's a hotline. And I'm like, well, why don't you just make it a cell phone and give it to me and I'll answer it? Because Mike Jones, the rapper, he did that. And so I was like, just make it a real number and I'll answer it. And so they gave me a phone, and I have the phone. So if you call the number a few hours a day, I try and answer it as much as possible. It's actually really fun, so I can talk to fans and stuff. It's been really fun.
Do people believe it's you? Do you get all of that?
Sometimes they don't initially, and then I'm like, no, seriously, me. And then they're like, what are you doing? And I'm like, brushing my teeth. And they're like, you're boring. I'm like, okay, sorry. And then sometimes people don't get that I can't stay on the phone like all day.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, hang on, let me get this friend. Hold on, let me go. He'll be here in like 10 minutes. Just hang on the phone. And I'm like, well, I gotta. Okay. Yeah.
And I was gonna say, from the trailer to The Sitter, it really feels like a character who is kind of a dick at the start, but presumably you have to root for by the end of the movie. And I was gonna say, David Gordon Green has worked on Eastbound and Down, which is
Eastbound and Down's one of the best shows ever.
Was he a good collaborator to just push you into that?
Dave is
space?
One of the greatest people I've ever met in my entire life. He is so inspirational. He's so funny and weird and interesting. And, him and Jody Hill and Danny McBride have this collective that they went to school together at North Carolina School for the Arts or South Carolina School for the Arts. I can't remember which one. North Carolina School for the Arts. And they are just so unique and twisted and weird and messed up. And Eastbound and Down is such a beautiful, for me, I have nothing to do with it. I'm just a fan of it. I think it's like some of the strongest work being done right now.
Sure.
Yeah.
And just back to Moneyball before we get to those internet questions. You're obviously in the Bay Area this weekend. You're not throwing out the opening pitch this weekend or anything,
I am.
are you? You are?
In
Awesome.
Oakland, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm very excited. Yeah, it's going to be really cool. Thanks for letting me do that. Are you guys A's fans? Okay, got weird for a second. Yikes. Okay, that's my time.
And I mean, how do you spend like opening weekend for a movie like this? How are you going to?
Well, I'm throwing out the A's game this Sunday, and then the premiere is Monday, and it doesn't come out till the following Friday. So September 23rd is when Moneyball opens. But I'm excited to throw the first pitch out. That's going to be really exciting. And how do I spend the opening weekend?
Yeah.
Freaking out until
Yeah.
I know how if I'll be able to work again financially based on how the movie did. I think Hollywood has this really bananas system that is so different than what you guys at home would know about and what I knew about when I was in high school knowing movies. And I think it's so bizarre. Like the first weekend financial numbers that the movie makes is so important to these people. You know, it's like you almost immediately forget about if you like the movie or not. So everyone gets real freaked out and worried, and I just kind of pace around until someone calls me and tells me I get to do another movie again or not. But I'm so proud of this movie. It's like I know it will live on. That I don't need to stress, you know. And especially because Brad Pitt's such a big movie star that hopefully that helps in some way. Yeah.
I'm sure you'll do fine. So because we're at YouTube, one of our standard questions is really, if and when you're ever sitting in front of a computer looking at YouTube, what are you looking at?
Well, YouTube, not to blow smoke or whatever, but it's such a big part of a writer's room. So obviously on movie sets, every movie set I've been on as an actor, during Cyrus, John C. Reilly, like one of the main ways we bonded was trading YouTube videos. And, in the writer's room, for Alan Gregory, the animated show, it's a bunch of people writing comedy for a TV show. And, trying to think of things that are funny, sometimes you need to be inspired and you need to take breaks, constant breaks, and procrastination. And a lot of it is just needing a laugh and needing something to entertain us. In our writer's internet, our writer's assistant, he controls the internet in the room. And the homepage is YouTube because it's like we'll say, hey, all right, we're not writing anything good. We've been stuck on this scene for the past hour. Pull up blah 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 video and let's laugh for a second. So it's a constant part of my day, a constant part of the creative process, for at least my creative process, because you need breaks in the day that are short because you don't have all the time in the world, and you need short breaks in the day that are punchy and can make you entertained. And that's really, for me, the service that you guys provide that is really beneficial to my creative process.
Cool. So we have some questions that people asked through the @Google Talks channel. One of them is from a guy called Burgers Taste Good.
Well, that's a great
and
name.
He's not wrong there. He likes the Game Dude channel on YouTube, and he thinks you're great and wants to know, would you ever do a video with The Game Dude? I'm not sure if The Game Dude is also Burgers Taste Good. He may be asking on behalf of himself.
Oh, really? I don't know what The Game Dude is, but burgers do taste good, and I wish him the best in his hamburger consumption and life.
Excellent. So Brower Chick from Seoul in Korea asked, what are your favorite movies, both of your own and just in general?
Oh, okay. My favorite movies, I'm a big cinephile, so some of my favorite movies of all time. My favorite movie is Goodfellas. That's my favorite movie. Rushmore, Election, Big Lebowski, Groundhog Day, Midnight Cowboy, Tootsie, The Graduate, all Paul Thomas Anderson's movies, Adaptation.
Yeah.
I could go on for a long time, and I won't bore you guys, but I guess some of my favorite movies of my own is a very ego-maniacal question to answer and self-centered question to answer, but I guess the ones I'm most proud of, I'm really proud of all of them, but I guess if I was like going to a space country or like a different planet or something, and I had to say like, here's like what I did, I would probably give them Superbad and Cyrus and Moneyball.
Nice.
Yeah. And my one scene in 40-Year-Old Virgin, because I really like that eBay store guy. I always wondered what happened to that guy.
Excellent. I was going to ask you, though, there is a Superbad
He's wearing
question.
those boots
well,
somewhere.
Where do you think the characters from Superbad are now?
We always talked about that, like if there was ever going to be another one, and I think Seth and Evan wrote that, and I guess it's Seth, so maybe that guy's Seth now. But we always talked about it like my character would be living a depressing life in that same town, and Michael's character would be like working here, successful and happy, and my guy would still be like at home living with his parents. That's why we didn't make another one, because we felt it'd be more depressing.
So Brian Says Com from Beaumont in Texas asks, Jonah, you lost some weight recently.
Mm-hmm.
What was the hardest thing to give up, and any advice for anybody else?
Well, the hardest thing to give up would be burgers, because they taste good. And any advice? I don't know. It's just like anything you're going to do. Like, you know, when I wanted to become an actor and start making movies, it was the same kind of determination, the same kind of thing where you're like, you make a decision and you're like, I know this is going to be difficult. I know it's not going to be the easiest thing in the world, but I'm determined to do it, and I really care. I'm really caring about this decision. So you just make it a priority. And you know, when anyone's starting out in any business or any sort of life endeavor or any sort of relationship, you're starting out with the intention to go all the way. And to me, it was just a decision, and I just made a commitment to sticking to it.
Cool.
Yeah.
So
Except for all the hummus I just ate backstage, which was
delicious
hummus.
and healthy.
Yeah, it was great. Eat a lot of hummus at YouTube. That's my advice. If you're ever move to YouTube and eat their hummus, that's how you'll stay healthy.
So
Right?
absolutely.
Great.
Elaine Baseball from New York said,
No, seriously, can all of them move here and eat your hummus all day?
we just opened the second floor, so yeah, there's more space than there
Okay,
was.
great. Wonderful.
Elaine Baseball from New York says, Jonah,
Seriously though, how much hummus do you have? Do you have enough
almost
for everyone on the internet or
infinity.
no? Okay.
infinity hummus.
Is it true that there's a whole nother YouTube filled with hummus
There is, it comes in a giant tube every morning, and they park it outside.
and it's yours?
They pipe it in. There was a swimming pool downstairs, but now it's just filled with delicious hummus. We just
Okay.
pack
Do you put
over it.
chlorine in the hummus so you can swim in it still? So when people urinate in the hummus, it's not hazardous?
That's why it tasted the way it did. I had no idea. So, Elaine Baseball from New York wants to know, Jonah,
You like hummus? Yes, I do
I-
like hummus.
do you have a favorite flavor of hummus? Just generic?
Just
like
YouTube flavored.
YouTube.
Yeah.
With all those little
YouTube.
dogs on skateboards through
Yeah.
it in the works.
Is it true they grind up all the videos that have stopped getting hits and they make the hummus out of it?
That's exactly how it's made.
It's made from forgotten YouTube videos.
Yeah, they're not forgotten, they're just recycled. Matter cannot
Hummus
be
is
created
cool,
or
you guys.
destroyed.
Love hummus.
Excellent. From hummus to hip hop.
Okay, yeah. What's the question?
The question from Elaine Baseball in New York. Apparently, at one time you were talking about being a hip hop producer. Was there some? I don't know if that's true. You know, what happened with that? And maybe as a side question for myself, you have Method Man in the Sitter, so maybe there was some.
Well, when I was in high school, I had an MPC, and I would make hip hop beats for fun, but and I thought that might have been some sort of job opportunity, but then I realized that seemed a lot harder as a 16-year-old white dude without any like hip hop experience at all. And I just, you know, honestly, I grew up as worshiping hip hop. I love it. I love all kinds of music. I'm an audiophile too, and I just love all different kinds of music. But I'm a huge hip hop fan, and that was something I was really interested in. But then movies kind of pushed that out of the way at a certain point.
And did you have any interactions with Method Man on the set?
Oh yeah, tons. He's great.
Yeah.
He told such cool stories. I mean, if my 16-year-old self or 10-year-old self knew what I was doing now and who I'd be making movies with and having experiences with, it would just be too overwhelming or mind-blowing for little Jonah to understand, you know? I would sit in my room and listen to Wu-Tang records every night when I got home from school and watch movies, and you know, to be around these people, it's really inspiring, and I just try and learn as much as I can from them. You know, he had so many cool stories about when they were starting out and what that was like, and for me, that's like heaven to hear about all that stuff.
And kind of connected to that, I can't even pronounce it, ESOEZ TV said, like you developed a stand-up act when you were working on Funny People, which I guess is a similar kind of on-stage microphone kind of thing.
Right.
Is that something you're going to go back to, or was
Never. No. I'm an actor, and stand-up is a whole different art form, and I think it's arrogant. It would be arrogant of me to assume like I can just go do stand-up, because I've been in some funny movies or whatever, like guys like Chris Rock and Louis C.K., they're brilliant at what they do, and it's just a different art form, and I was an actor playing a stand-up in Funny People, and I had to develop a stand-up act, and it was, to this day, probably the hardest thing I've ever had to do to prepare for a movie, because I went out for 6 months, and it takes people, honestly, it takes years to get great at being a stand-up comedian. And for me, I love bouncing off of people, whether it's in a dramatic scene or a comedic scene. And in a stand-up, you're alone on stage with a microphone saying, please laugh at me. And it's terrifying, it's really terrifying. So it was such a courage. It gave me a lot of courage as a performer, like practicing for that. But I'll leave that to the guys and women that are brilliant at it.
Cool. We have a couple more internet questions, but we also have a couple of mics here on either side. So if anybody has a question, maybe you could start making your way to the mic. I love mostly anything too. Says, have you ever been stung by a bee?
What was the first part of the question?
No, the person who asked the question is, I love mostly anything too. Because mostly anything one was taken, obviously. Have you ever been stung by a bee?
I have been stung by a bee. Yep.
Excellent. Mongo Man 1 from Michigan wants to know.
I know him.
You do?
Yeah.
He apparently couldn't ask you this in person and decided to ask you this via the internet.
Yeah.
Have you ever considered being a song and dance man? Could you see yourself in a musical opposite Hugh Jackman?
I don't know about opposite Hugh Jackman, but I'd love to be in a musical. I loved, John C. Reilly in Chicago, or something like that, or maybe like Little Shop of Horrors, something like that. They've actually talked to me about some musical stuff, and I would never like be one of those actors who releases an album or anything stupid like that. But I would love to be in like a musical movie or maybe a play sometime. It'd be really fun.
Excellent. Your final internet question, also from Mongo Mad 1. He left several. Do you have an opinion on the designated batter rule?
I'm okay with it.
You're okay with it?
Yeah.
Excellent.
I don't lose sleep over it.
You don't lose sleep.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Do you want to start taking some questions?
Sure.
Hi, thanks for coming. We saw Moneyball the other night and thought it was great.
Thanks.
I, too, am a fan of the hummus, so I'm going to bring it back. I actually had it for snack time.
I love
today.
hummus-based questions.
So, since there's plain and spicy, I'm wondering which one you had.
I had plain.
Okay.
You know my feelings on it, but I imagine that there's also a place in my heart for spicy hummus.
And did you have the carrots or chips, or what was your dip?
Well, what I did was, now I'm going to throw a real curveball at you right now. I didn't dip anything into the hummus.
Okay.
And I didn't eat the hummus plain. What I did was there was a salad there that had like garbanzo beans and tomatoes and onions, and I put the hummus on top of it and smushed it all around and ate that, and it was so cool.
All right,
Isn't that
thank you.
exactly why you guys are watching this right now? So that's my recommendation, is mix your hummus with stuff. Mix it up. Get crazy out there, internet. Don't just dip stuff into your hummus. Make your hummus what you want it to be. Swim in it.
Nice. Do you want to kind of go back and forth?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Both sides.
How's it going?
Hey.
I'd like to start off by saying you should mix the spicy and regular hummus.
Okay.
That's the way to go.
Mild. Make
Next
your
time.
own mild hummus.
Exactly.
Right.
So I heard rumor that there was a lot of prank pulling on the set of Moneyball.
Yes.
And I heard a lot of that was on Brad Pitt's side. I was wondering if you got him back at all.
So there were a lot of pranks on the Moneyball set. 94% of them were Brad directed at me. He got me really good. I had this golf cart that I was really excited about because I felt that it was a symbol that I had finally become successful, that they gave me my own golf cart. So just him and I had our own golf carts to drive around the set and stuff. So we would race and smash into each other, and it was really fun. and he knew how much I cared about this golf cart. And so we would go do like a really serious scene, and then I'd walk out, and like the golf cart would have no wheels on it. It'd be on cinder blocks. And he would just walk outside and smile. And he was in the scene with me, which means he has little prank elves that like do this stuff while you're working. And then I'd walk out another time, and it'd be completely upside down. And then I'd walk out another time, and there'd be fake male genitalia hanging from the back of it. Then one time I was driving my actual car home, and my friend was driving behind me and called me and said, "Hey, I'm driving behind you. There's pink male genitalia hanging from the back of your car." And then I got an email from him saying, "How was the drive home?" And then eventually he became obsessed with me being obsessed with the band Wham, which he just made it clear that he thought I liked the band Wham. And so I'd walk into my character's office, and there'd be a framed Wham poster in there instead of a framed Oakland poster. And then my golf cart got wrapped in all pink, like car wraps. And then there was the time when there was a Photoshop picture of me and him as the two members of Wham on the front. And it said, "Jonah Hill, #1 Wham fan." And then on the side said Wham Mobile. And then the final prank was every time I turned on the engine, he had it rigged so it blasted "Wake Me Up Before You Go Go" at full volume on a loop anytime I had the engine on. So if I had a meeting with an executive at Sony or something, I would have to drive over there in this golf cart.
But you never got him back?
I did, but I'm going to be on Letterman on Tuesday, and I'm waiting to show my pranks back on him there. No offense.
I respect that.
Yeah.
We've got another question over here.
Yes.
Hey, so big fan. One of the things that I love about your movies is that you seem to have this like really great relationship with a lot of the other comedians, And I'm just wondering, is that just great acting, or is there something?
Yes, I
there?
hate
Is
all
that-
of
yeah?
them. They're all terrible people.
So how is it working with like this? It seems like a tight knit group of.
Yeah,
comedians
like Paul
nowadays.
Rudd and Michael Cera and Seth Rogen and Jason Segel and Danny McBride and all these guys and Franco and all these people. A lot of us came up together. Started together, and it was. A lot of us became successful at the same time and with each other. So what I liked about that a lot, and we're all still friends, but it's been interesting because now we're all doing our own movies kind of thing. So it's not as much as like a gang, and not because we don't still love each other and want to make movies together all the time, which we do, but everyone's kind of following their dream that they had independently before. And now it's kind of hard since we all became actually employable. Before we were unemployable, so it's like, hey, you guys want to all be in a movie together? We're like, hell yeah. But now we're all employable, so we'll take a movie and then someone else will take a movie, and the schedules are really hard to align, to have all the planets align all at once. But those guys are the greatest group of guys ever. I mean, they're all so funny, and if we're ever somewhere and one of us sees the other one, it just does feel like we gravitate towards one another and hang out with each other at that party or whatever it would be. And I don't know, I really look at that time as my college experience, because my early 20s were spent with this really fun group of guys making each other laugh. Yeah.
Any more takers? Excellent.
I'm not going to twist your arm.
Oh, we're fine. Okay.
Yeah. Yes,
I'm
the
also a
hummus was
huge
great.
Wham fan.
Okay, yeah.
What's your favorite song? That's not my question, but I'm just
Oh,
wondering.
I'm not actually a Wham fan.
Oh, that's the whole point then.
That was
I
the
am.
joke, was that he
Card-carrying.
decided I was a Wham fan. I have nothing, I don't even understand. I think Wham is probably awesome. I only know that one song. I know like the big T-shirt with the sayings on it.
There's a song where they rap. It's really good.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All
Should
right,
check it
well, I
out.
got to get on that.
Well, I saw the movie Get Him to the Greek, which I'm a big fan of because
thanks.
I used to be an assistant to a minor English musical celebrity.
Yeah.
And so it reminded me a lot of myself, your character. Do you have any tips for, I'm an assistant here, but it's not the same. It's not as bad. Do you have any tips for...
They don't make you shove heroin up your bum?
No comment. I plead the fifth. Would you have any tips for anything you learned on set when you were filming that for someone who has to take care of a celebrity.
Are you calling your boss a crazy
no,
person?
not my boss here, but maybe in the past.
Sure.
Any any
Yeah,
tips
yeah,
for
no,
dealing with a
somewhere
minor
else, right?
celebrity? Yeah.
Somewhere else,
Just
right?
winky face, winky face.
It was at Hoo, another company you worked at right before that. I don't know. I guess you'd have to ask these guys who work with me.
How was it working with Seth? I mean, Seth.
yeah.
Jonah.
Yeah.
Sorry. Oh, I guess I just got in my head earlier.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I don't know. I think working with me is probably pretty easy. I think Russell Brand's character was probably a really big exaggeration of what that was like. I've never worked for a rock star, so I don't really know. But I imagine that's a really arduous task.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Jonah.
Oh, wait, this girl is about to stand up.
Sorry, my apologies.
Do you have a girlfriend, and if so, does she like hummus as much as you?
I am dating hummus currently. It's a giant gelatinous hummus person that I've carved out of hummus, and we're engaged. So, no, I try not to talk about like my family or friends or stuff like that because I signed up to be doing this, and it's crazy if you are pulled into something that you didn't sign up for. You know what I mean? But I am dating someone, yes. And she's made of hummus, and she's great.
She's delicious, I'm sure.
She's frozen hummus. I mean, what's not to love? It's hummus, but it's freezing cold. Why did this become the centerpiece of this interview? Why do I regret doing this?
I think there's more back there.
Okay, cool. I'm looking forward to it.
As we've established, there's infinite hummus. So just to wrap up, Jonah, do you have any final thoughts about Moneyball that you want to share?
I just think it's a really wonderful, moving movie, and it's a rare treat for me to get to be a part of a movie like this, and I'm just really, really proud of it, and thank you guys for watching or coming to this, and if you want to see a good movie September 23rd, go see Moneyball. It won't let you down.
Excellent. Well,
Yeah.
I'll just ask everybody then to thank me or join me in thanking you for being here, Jonah.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
could you also thank me? Would that be? No.
Awesome. Oh, thank what?
Thank
You. Yeah.
for being
Thanks.
here.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
Cheers.